Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We were discussing khums and we were going through the seerah of the Ma'sumeen, their teachings about khums in very briefly. And due to shortage of time, I'd like to fast forward to a couple of hadith from our last two Imams, alayhimus salam. Imam al-Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam, a companion of his called Ar-Rayyan ibn Salt, wrote to him and he gave him certain details about his businesses and about his incomes, and he asked about what is due on that. And Imam al-Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam replied, "It is obligatory upon you to give khums from it." You can see from that the obligation of khums continued until then. And then when we referred to Imam al-Mahdi, salamullah alayh, may Allah hasten his reappearance, we see a couple of tawqi'at in which he very strongly condemns those people who withhold khums. In one tawqi', one of his letters, responding to the questions asked by Sheikh Abdul Hussein Muhammad ibn Ja'far al-Asadi, he said, I'll just go towards the translation. "As for what you have asked me about the issue of a person using our property without our permission, then he should know that whosoever does so, whoever uses our property, who is withholding khums and he's using it without our permission, he is cursed, he is mal'oon. فَهُوَ مَلْعُونَ وَنَحْنُ خُسَمَاؤُهُ, and we are his opponents. On the Day of Judgment we will stand in front of him to make our claim against him that he wronged us, he did dhulm against us. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-mustahillu min itrati ma harram Allahu mal'oonun ala lisani wa lisani kulli nabiyyin mujab." That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that whoever considers halal from the wealth of the Ahlul Bayt, from the wealth of my itra, that which is actually forbidden for him to use, yani the money of khums, is mal'oon. With my tongue I am saying that he is mal'oon, and he is mal'oon with the tongue of every Nabi past me. فَمَنْ ظَلَمَنَا كَانَ فِي جُمْلَةِ الظَّالِمِينَ لَنَا. Imam continues to say that whoever wrongs us, he is in general one of the group of those who are doing dhulm against us. We are, if we don't pay khums, we are categorized as amongst the dhalimeen against the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. In other words, we are amongst those who killed the Aimma alayhimus salatu wassalam, those who tortured them, those who imprisoned them. We are amongst those people. وَكَانَتْ لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ لِقَوْلِهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ أَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. Allah has cursed those who do dhulm, particularly those who do dhulm upon the Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. This is the emphasis that the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam has given us in regards to the khums. But let us now look at the laws of khums. First of all, the khums, it is wajib, it is obligatory upon 7 sources of income, 7 different categories of income. First of all, the minerals, such as the gold and the metals and the stones and even the chalk stone as an obligatory precaution according to Ayatollah al-Uzma Sayyid Sistani, as well as rubies and as well as salt is also included, oil, tar, all of these things which are extracted from the earth and they have a certain value. Secondly, those treasures which are found underground or hidden in trees, walls, mountains, etc., these kind of treasures are subject to khums. Thirdly, those things of value found in the sea by diving. If somebody goes into the sea and dives and finds certain things of value such as pearls and corals and other gems, that income is also subject to khums. Fourthly, the spoils of war. If the Muslims fight against the enemies under the command of the Ma'soom Hujjah, the Prophet or the Imam alayhimus salam, the spoils of war will also be subject to khums. Fifthly, where a dhimmi, which is a Christian or a Jew who is living under the state of Islam, under the leadership of the Ma'soom Imam, under the protection of the Islamic State, he purchases a piece of land from a Muslim, that purchase will be subject to khums as well. These 5 things I'm just going over very, very quickly because they are very irrelevant to most of us nowadays. Number 6 is when unlawful and lawful wealth get mixed up so much that eventually one turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and repents and he wishes to make amends, but he cannot because he has no record of how much he owes to anybody, all these things that he has earned on an unlawful basis, such as through gambling or through interest or through bribery or through any other means which are forbidden, or for selling forbidden things as well. Those kind of unlawful incomes are completely mixed with lawful incomes that he cannot completely tell each other, to tell the both parts from each other. Then a person, he should pay khums, and then the remaining 4/5 will become halal for him to use and to see as his own, as we have seen in the hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam. And the 7th item which is subject to khums is what is relevant to a majority of us, a vast majority of us, any type of gain, profit, which we obtain in our life after our age of bulugh, after we reach the age of bulugh and we become baligh, that income is subject to khums. What you need to do if you want to calculate how much khums is liable on your wealth, what you do is, when you start earning, you fix a date. The khums year will end at that date and begin at that date every year, and you should pay khums on that date according to how much income you have, net income you have at the end of that year. So you would deduct all the expenses that you have undertaken throughout the year, all of these things for your family, the food, the housing, all the necessities of life, anything which is according to your status in society. So it shouldn't be more extravagant than what your means are or what your status is in society. Otherwise that expense will not be deductible from your income, and you have to take that account for that. All of these, what kind of incomes? You could be employed, you could be self-employed, you could have a business, you could work for somebody else. All of these incomes, it could be through agriculture, it could be any kind of trade or service. It includes, even if you are hired to pray or fast on behalf of somebody who has deceased, the income that you derive from that will also be subject to khums at the end of the year. This also includes gifts. If somebody gifts you any amount of money or wealth, anything, that is part of your khums liability. Loans that you get from the bank or for anybody else, if once that wealth comes into your bank account or comes within your grasp, you are liable to pay khums on whatever loan is left, whatever part of that is left after the end of the year. Those inheritances which come from unexpected sources. For example, if according to the laws of the land or according to other religions and other schools of fiqh, you are given certain amount of inheritance, but according to the Shia fiqh, you wouldn't have gotten that. That is subject to khums, because that is not strictly the inheritance that, although you have a right to it, that is not strictly inheritance as labeled by the Sharia. And as well as this, if your father or if anybody who passes away gifts you in his legacy apart from the basic inheritance, if he provides you a gift in any way, of anybody, any friend or relative bequeaths you a certain gift apart from the basic inheritance that their immediate relatives would get, that will also be subject to khums. Any savings that we have will also be subject to khums. So if we have a savings account, we will need to calculate how much we have extra every year, how much you put in that every year, and pay khums on that as well. The khums on that is a bit difficult for us to fathom sometimes. Why? Because we live in a society where we are expected to save up in order to buy a house, or in order to do this or to do that, or save up for the children's future, for their education, and so on and so forth. But savings in general, whether it's out of economizing or stinginess or whatever reason it is, whatever savings you have, it is subject to khums. Of course, you won't repeat khums on any income repetitively. If you go back to the khums in general, any kind of income that you have, once you paid khums from that income, that will not be subject to khums again. So if you have a saving of, for example, £5,000 every year, you will only pay £1,000 on that £5,000 that you're getting every year for khums. And you won't repeat the payment of khums on that same savings that you had since last year. It'll only be for the extra savings that you have earned and that you have saved for that year. But this raises a question where in this society we are expected to make savings. Why? Because we cannot buy a house. It is impossible for the vast majority of us to buy a home without having any of these kind of savings, and it's something that is very common. Ayatollah al-Uzma Sayyid Ali Sistani Damadullah al-Warif has given us a certain way by which we can save that money without it being subject to khums. And what he says is that such savings will be exempted from khums if not buying a house is considered in your society as a sign of neglecting your duty towards your family. So if the not saving money is a sign that you are neglecting your family, then that savings, if you do save, then that savings will be exempted from khums. So you will be able to save up without paying khums on that. But this is something that we have to judge for ourselves subjectively to see whether our saving and to buy a house is something that is expected by society. In some parts of the world it is not the case, such as many parts of Europe. Many people many people happily live in rental accommodation because they don't have their own property to live in. They don't own their own houses or flats, so they live in rental accommodation. And this is very normal in many parts of the world. So we have to look subjectively whether we are expected to buy a house and expected to save money. Otherwise, we are shunned as being neglectful of our families. It's something that we have to see for ourselves. Otherwise, the general rule of khums will apply and such savings will be subjected to those laws. There are certain exceptions to the khums. There are no khums on these exceptions. The first major exception is the mahar, the dowry which the wife receives from the husband at the time of the marriage, or at any time they decide after that. So whatever is contracted upon in the mahar, whatever the wife receives at that wedding or at the marriage or after that, it will not be subject to khums. It's tax free. The other category which is not subject to khums, which is exempted from khums, is inheritance which somebody receives from their relatives. The basic inheritance which is mandatory by the Sharia, which is obligated by the Sharia if you are the son or the brother, depending on what tier you're in relation to him, as according to the rules of inheritance in the Sharia. If you receive anything from that, you will not be liable to pay khums on that. These are the two main exceptions. There's another exception, a few other exceptions. Another exception would be if a person is injured by somebody else, if there's some kind of personal injury, any compensation received in lieu of that injury, any diyat or any compensation received, will be exempt from khums. Now, a person, as I said, he has to pay khums. How much? The question may arise amongst the non-Arabic communities, that how much khums do we pay? The khums itself, the word tells us how much we ought to pay. Khums itself means 1/5. So out of any of these things, out of any of these incomes, we should pay 1/5. The other categories, such as the minerals and the treasures and the things obtained from the sea through diving, they have certain minimal quantities. There's a certain threshold. After that, they are subject to khums. Below that, they are not subject to khums. But in the general incomes and salaries and the wages that we get, all the incomes that we get and the gifts, there is no minimal, and whatever you have, even if it is £1, you will need to give 20 pence of that away, 1/5 of that away as khums. At the end of the year, you have to deduct all those expenses. You get to the total income at the end of the year, and what you have left is usually what you have spent from that money, all the expenses for the household, for your business, and so on and so forth. But it is necessary for those expenses to be reasonable, not extravagant, and according to the person's status in society. If he goes beyond his means, then khums should be paid on that expense too. If he spends out of the blue £1,000 on something that he doesn't need and something that he doesn't really require and something beyond his means, he has to pay khums on that £1,000, because that is seen in reality as wealth that he should have in terms of currency rather than this item which he bought. And he shouldn't have spent that money. That money should be with him as money. So he should pay khums on that. Apart from this, if somebody buys something, any household item, if it is not used within that year, that is also subject to khums, because it is not used. It is something which we needn't have bought. If I buy something, a pot set for the kitchen or some cutlery for the kitchen, and I don't use it for a year, then I have to pay khums on that. I should at least make some usage of that, so that that item that I bought would become deductible expenses from the income. And a person is free to specify any year-end date for the purposes of khums, and to fix that. It could be according to the Islamic calendar, it could be according to the Christian calendar. As long as he fixes any date and he accounts all his income, deducting his reasonable expenses at that point every year. The next and final question is, once we taken out khums, where do we send it to? Who do we pay it to? Where does it go? How do we dispose of it? Sahm al-Imam, as mentioned in the verse, is divided into 6 parts. The part which is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the prophets, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and then to the Imams. The Dhul Qurba, as mentioned in the verse, refers to the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam, and this is what we call as a Sahmul Imam, because the portion of Allah goes to the Imam, the portion of the Prophet goes to the Imam, and their own portion as well goes to the Imam. So this is what we call Sahmul Imam alayhi salam. The Imam of our time is a rightful recipient and beneficiary of this part of khums. And this is half of that khums. Whatever khums you take out every year, half of that should be earmarked as Sahmul Imam. The question arises, as the Imam is in ghaibah, he is in occultation, may his reappearance be hastened. However, in this time, what do we do with the khums? Bearing in mind that also the Imam has also instructed us to give khums and has cursed those who does not give khums and who withholds it, and considers them as one of the zalimeen against the Ahlul Bayt. So what do we do in this time and age, in the time where we don't have the Imam before us? We do what in the times of the Imams, where the companions and the other mu'mineen, what they used to do. They used to refer to the wukala, to the agents of the Imam. The Imams alayhimu salatu wasalam were not always available to the people. They didn't have a great banking system there with them where they could deal with all these financial issues. Rather, he let the agents, his trusted and reliable agents, deal with these monies, particularly at the times when they were under house arrest or in prison or taken far away, such as is the case with Imam Rada alayhi salam, where he was taken to Khurasan. So these, we can decipher from that, and this is what the Maraji' have also said, that we give this money to the representatives of the Imam. And in this day and age, those fuqaha who are muttaqi, mu'min, they are learned and knowledgeable and in sync with what the Imams require, having such a great relationship with the Imam through studying their texts for their whole lives and studying the Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah for their whole lives. They know best what the Imam wants, and they will be able to dispose of the khums in the various manners in which they wish. And this is where we should give the Sahmul Imam. We should refer to the Maraji' and the Mujtahideen who are Jami' al-Shara'it, and they know best how to spend the funds in a way that the Imam alayhi salam would be satisfied with. We give it to the Maraji' or their appointed wakils. And the benefit of this Sahmul Imam, if you ask the question, where is it going to? The Maraji' do not take this money. The Mujtahideen don't take this money. What they do is they become a source of support for many people, for many poor people, needy people in the Shia community, disabled people in the Shia community who can't earn a living even if they wanted to, as well as victims of natural disasters, for the propagation and the spread of Islam, for the tabligh and the teachings across the world, for providing for the students and the teachers in the hawzas and the various seminaries across the world, who are spending their lives to study and to teach Islam, and for the continuation of the teachings and the ulum of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad alayhimu salatu wassalam, as well as to establish and maintain Islamic organizations and centers and madrasas and literature and publishing and all other variety of subjects. If you look around, all of these projects are very, very reliant on Sahmul Imam, and these things cannot happen without Sahmul Imam alayhi salam. This is where one half of the khums will go. The other half of khums is called Sahmus Sadat, which is the part which is given to the offspring of the Banu Hashim clan of the Quraysh tribe. And this is specifically towards those who are orphans or those who are poor and needy, and for those who are stranded travelers. they have reached a place, if a Sayyid, if a Hashimi has reached a place and he has lost his money, although he may have plenty of money back home, he can't go anywhere, Sahm al-Sadat can be used to fund his travel and to get to where he wants to get to. All of those from the offspring of Banu Hashim. Why? Because zakat was made forbidden for them. Those, according to Ayatollah al-Uzma Sayyid Sistani, the zakat which is forbidden for the Banu Hashim is just the wajib zakat. Zakatul mal or zakatul fitra, as we had discussed last week. And this is how khums works as alongside zakat, as a financial system which the Sharia has imposed and obligated upon us. It is something that we have to take very, very seriously. As I mentioned last week, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said that the people, the poor people, the needy people are only needy and poor because of the sins of the wealthy. Those of us who have means, we are not giving our dues. We are not paying zakat or khums. And therefore we are in effect doing dhulm on those who are in need of it. If everybody had undertaken their obligation of khums and of zakat, and for caring for each other, for the Muslim Ummah in general, and for your fellow mu'mineen in specifics, the Muslim Ummah will not see anybody who is hungry, who is poor and needy. Everybody would have his share of his rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As it was the case in Kufa in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, where there was nobody who went to sleep hungry on his watch in Kufa while he was the Khalifa of the Muslimin there, and while he had the means to be able to keep those funds coming in and to use those funds from the Baytul Mal. And as well as our obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of fasting and praying and other types of worships, the zakat and khums and these financial obligations towards our fellow mu'mineen are just as important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put them both on the same pedestal. Where He mentioned the prayer, He had also mentioned the salat. As such, may Allah give us a tawfiq to undertake our obligations, to fulfill our duties, both to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to our Imams alayhimus salatu wassalam, as well as to those around us, our family members, our relatives, our friends, other mu'mineen and muslimin at large. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.